This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
You want to get your backyard summer ready, but you don't want to break the bank? Wayfair gets it. Planning on dining al fresco or relaxing poolside? Wayfair has everything you need to prep your space. Shop now and save up to 70% off during Wayfair's 4th of July clearance. Score huge deals on outdoor furniture, area rugs, and more. We're talking thousands of products for every style and budget. Plus, surprise flash deals July 6th. Don't wait. Shop Wayfair's 4th of July clearance now through July 6th at wayfair.com.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Every once in a while, you sit across from someone whose success doesn't begin with talent. It begins with survival. Today's guest is one of the most respected chefs in Florida. As chef and co-owner of Proper House Group, Chef Ferrell Alvarez has helped redefine Tampa's dining scene through concepts including Rooster the Till, Ash, Alter Ego, Gallito Taqueria, and Dang Dude. His work has earned Michelin Bib Gourmand recognition, James Beard recognition, and the respect of an entire industry. But awards don't build character. Life does. Long before the accolades, Ferrell was a 15-year-old dishwasher trying to stay out of trouble, a young cook chasing opportunity before chefs became celebrities. He found mentors who saw something in him before he saw it himself. Then life tested him. He lost friends. He survived tragedy. He became a single father. He walked away from opportunities most young chefs would only dream about because responsibility came first. He lost a home, started over, and eventually found himself asking people to believe in a dream that at the time existed only on paper. Somehow they did. Over and over again throughout his life, someone chose to bet on him before there was proof that they should. A chef, a mentor, a banker, an attorney, friends willing to invest in an idea, his mother, his daughter. Those moments shaped not only the restaurateur he would become, but the man. Today, Chef Ferrell Alvarez spends just as much time investing in others as people once invested in him. Because somewhere along the way, he realized something profound. Restaurants don't change communities. People do. The restaurant simply becomes the place where it happens. Chef Ferrell, let's go back to the 15-year-old kid washing dishes. Before anyone else believed in you, what did you believe about yourself?
I think I believed that I was hardworking. I was well supported by my mother and my family in regards to belief. I think in the pit of my stomach, I knew I could do what I wanted if I applied myself, but I was so distracted by everything else. That was more of bad decision making and more glamorous, from the outside looking in. So I think that's why at that age I was misfocused.
Welcome to the show. We had a great day today. We've been hanging out for 5 hours. So we got to share a lot of stuff. Food, stories, a lot of camaraderie built. Would you say that, was that first job teaching how to cook? Or really was it pushing you to your path on really how to become a man?
Yeah, I would definitely say the latter. I started off as a dishwasher at a deli, and cooking wasn't. I cooked at home. I grew up with an American-Italian mother. Her mother, my grandmother, my aunts. All on the weekends we would be together in the house, and the women would be stereotypically cooking in the kitchen for everybody. So I did grow up around that environment. So I was introduced to cooking at that age, but nothing that I was aware of. It was just like a byproduct of being raised. So then washing dishes, I was just kind of in the dish pit and zoning out. But even when I did that, in retrospect, I was always clean, organized. I was systematic, and I didn't even know any of that vernacular at that time. But that was just the way kind of my brain worked, And I think that's kind of what helped me do good in the beginning.
I remember back in the 70s and early 80s. I'm a second generation Italian and American Italian. The women, my grandmother, aunts, everybody, they would cater to you from the children up.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't have to lift a finger. And if you try to, it was like, no, stay. That doesn't exist anymore. I didn't remember that thought, that memory until just now.
Yeah, you didn't come into my house, and even if you were a stranger, the first thing is, hey, are you hungry? Can we get you something to eat?
And they would whip it together pretty quick too. Speaking of food, let's talk about what we did today in the kitchen here at the studio.
Yeah.
I'm staring at a picture right there on the wall. Let's start with that dish, man, because it's fire. I mean, it was delicious, and then look at it.
Yeah. It's a beautiful dish. Equally beautiful as it is tasty. Quite frankly, this kind of ties into the story that we'll discuss today, I think, with like my evolution as a chef and then now as a chef restaurant owner. Chef Seth Temple is our CDC there. Amazing chef. And this is his dish through and through. A dish, boquerones with herb oil, chili oil, fresh lime, and served with our house-made focaccia at Ash. I approved it. I tasted it. It was delicious, so I green-lit it. But he did this at Barocco in Montreal, or a variation where he last worked before he came to Tampa to work with us. And yeah, it's so minimalistic. It's so fresh. And typically, especially in our city, people aren't used to eating a plate of boquerones with some homemade bread and being satisfied with that in the beginning of their meal.
There's another word for boquerones that you don't like that's close to it.
I mean, it's an anchovy, right? But like, again, Tampa, American mentality, the majority, not everybody, don't hang me, but you say anchovies on the menu. That's why we call them boquerones, and we didn't write white anchovies because people will shy away from it. They're thinking of utility pizza with the shitty brown anchovies on it. But that's just not.
That's not what this is.
Not at all. No, not.
And it's not fishy in any kind of way.
No, I mean, obviously it's fish, so fish has a natural seafood flavor, but no, it's not like what somebody who is opposed to anchovies would consider fleshy.
And that's where John made an error today by not having the boquerones.
Well, good for him. I saved a couple, so we'll serve them up afterwards.
See, now that's the BTS people want to see. People want to see John eating a white anchovy. I'm looking at you, kid. I got to sit with Zane and Seth yesterday at Ash. I spent an hour and a half or so over there. You have a really great team.
Yeah, for sure.
Seth is an interesting fella. He's from New Orleans.
He is.
Yeah. And I think at some point I want to have him on and I want to get into some New Orleans talk.
Yeah, he loves that.
Yeah, for sure. We were texting a little bit, Instagram texting a little bit about it. But it starts with the team. In the situation where you are, where you've been able to kind of like come from the bottom, hit in the face, having to start over, like this whole story that we're going to get into, your story, it's allowed you to be able to rely on good team members. So throughout your experience, you've had the Allens and the Martys and this group of people that have surrounded you and lifted you up. And it wasn't just like one or two. You have like a strong dozen people. All of these people have seen something in you, and you don't necessarily see that yourself. Why? Why do people believe in you?
I was afraid this was going to turn into a therapy session quicker than it would a podcast, and I'm here for it. But that's a good question. I think I'm 47 years old now, man. I'm 48 this year in September. I still mentally feel like I'm 28 in a positive way, physically as well. But I think I've always carried an imposter syndrome is what they title it nowadays, I'm a confident person. I'm certainly not cocky. I'm not overly confident. Tend to stay quiet and introverted to myself. I keep a small circle. I think mostly because my normal business life is, outward facing, right? So I'm always shaking hands and kissing babies, if you will. And I'm genuine when I do that. I'm not being myself. But that's just not who I am. I try to, I'm a little bit more calculated and reserved. Yeah. When we were talking about this before, you brought that up, and it's still dumbfounding to me. I got a lot of strong people in my corner from my family to my workmates. Yeah. I struggle with that. If I'm being honest, I don't know why they believe in me. I think I'm a good person. I think I work hard. I think I'm loyal. I'm honest. I'm trustworthy. And when I'm down for you, I'm really down for you. So I would like to think that that's how they feel me and view me. You asking me questions about Alan, who was the owner of the deli that I first started working at when I was 15 years old. And then talking about people like Marty and then Joe Caballero, who believed in me and lent me money, and then people who lent me money. And yeah, the belief is real. And I still have a hard time like accepting that. I feel like they're being kind to me, you know, and they're just like giving me an opportunity. But when I receive that, I take it very seriously and I don't drop the ball.
Yeah, but you know what the funny thing is? Just because somebody is giving you an opportunity, most people aren't doing it out of charity.
Yeah.
They're doing it because there's a feel, you know, and that feel might be something with eye contact or the handshake or something that says, hey, you know what, this individual has an extra gear. They're not going to hurt me. Or they're at least they're going to put the effort in. And if it's a fail, it's a fail. But the work is going to get put in. That's probably that has to be part of what this is.
Yeah, I guess I would agree with that. You know, like it's hard for me. It's like even hard to agree with those things. You know, like I don't know, man. I just I feel lucky. I feel fortunate, and I'm super grateful, dude. You know, like people believe in me, and I think that I need that too, because when people do believe in me and they give me an opportunity and it's not charity, I take that very seriously. Because if I commit to you, I commit. You know, I'm all in. So if you have my word, then I won't waver on that. You know, I'll go down swinging every time.
Walk and Talk Media is proudly supported by Rack Porcelain USA, creating durable, beautifully designed tableware for chefs and hospitality professionals. Learn more at rackporcelain.com. When it comes to leadership, being a servant leader is probably the A+ thing that you could do. And that's how you get either people that are on the cusp, maybe they have potential and maybe they don't really care about stuff in their life so much, but they have skill sets and you know, it's somebody that you can kind of mentor up and have some momentum push, you know, some momentum there. But when they see the owner, the leader, the person in charge doing the hard work, that's a motivator for everybody.
Yeah. So
if you're leading by showing and you pick up the broom and you sweep the floor, so to speak, other people are going to follow suit.
1,000%. That's in my DNA, you know?
Yeah, but that's your culture. That's your culture, but that's also the company culture. And it shows, let me tell you something. I mentioned earlier, I've been in probably 1,000 kitchens or more. Ash, you can eat off the floor.
Yeah. It's because, you know, we work so hard, man. And starting at 15 and then now coming here to where I am and building the company with Sean, my partner, and my partners who I've had who have now moved on, you know, Ty and Miles. When you build it yourself, at least for me, not only did we build it ourselves, but we paid for it ourselves. There is not a single penny in my company that doesn't come from our own pockets. There's no outside money. We're self-made. You know, we built Rooster from the ground up 13 and a half years ago with nickels. And so I still have that mentality, you know, like we have a strict cleaning regimen. We have a strict regimen on everything, a procedure, a policy, a standard, an expectation, and we back those up. What's really important to me is backing that up with kindness and care and making people feel like when they do those things, they're being rewarded, they're being seen, not that they're being beat down to do those things. And I think when you can be a leader in that space and lead that way, that's when you get to reap some benefits that you might not think were coming to you.
You had an opportunity to go to New York and work for Marcus Samuelsson, but you didn't.
Yeah. Oh, man. I was 22 or 23 years old, and I was working for Marty, Blitz, and Maryann Ferenc at Mise en Place, one of the biggest transitional periods of my life, professionally and personally, quite frankly. And I had been there for years, so, you know, I applied to Aquavit when he first opened up Aquavit and aging me. And yeah, man, I got an opportunity to pursue sous chef there. And during that process, while I was going through that process, I was driving one day to work at Mise en Place for Marty. And my girlfriend at the time called me up and said, "Hey, I'm pregnant and we're going to have a kid." So I found myself as a father of a beautiful young girl, Annalise. And yeah, of course, I'm not going to bail on that. You know, that's my responsibility. So I had to change my path, and I stuck it out, and I wound up staying with Marty for several more years and becoming a father.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, like both are big deals, right? Like getting the opportunity is a big deal, but then being a father is like is crazy. And it wasn't planned at 23, but there's a reason why that happened, as is everything in my life, and it's part of my journey and still is.
When I got the call from my then girlfriend, hey, by the way, I am now with child. I'll never forget that. I think I had a short circuit, but the short circuit wasn't till I cut and run. It was, oh man, I got to change my life and do the right thing here.
Yeah.
Not that I was a horrible guy, but that wasn't it at that moment. And that's what I did. And I remember when I got the call that it was going to be a daughter. And that really threw me for a loop. But like my family, I got to meet my great grandparents. Like we were, this was some old school stuff. So everything was either masculine or feminine. So it was always something where you assume, oh yeah, your first child's going to be a boy. I had to wrestle with that. But as soon as I realized, and I know I had a conversation with my good friend John over here and another good friend Jimmy, and the consensus was, it's the best thing to ever happen to you. And it changed my life completely.
For real. I'm definitely masculine, for lack of a better word, but I was raised by my mom heavy, and she's the biggest parental force in my life. She's just always there, like 24/7. Mom is mom, and so I definitely have that soft side. I definitely feel in touch with females and ladies, and in regards to being raised by my aunts and my grandmother and my mom, and having so much of that presence in my life, that when I knew that it was going to be a daughter, I was elated. I was over the moon.
Did becoming a father shape you in a different way, or more so than 15 years in a kitchen?
Oh yeah, for sure. You learn so much, like you've been through it now, so you understand, but especially at that age, right? So you got to understand that at 23, that was 24 years ago, right? So life is different back then. I'm working as a sous chef. I was sous chef at that time for Marty at Mise. So to have a child and be a chef is already challenging enough because of schedule and demand. 1 year after my daughter's birth, I split up with her mother, and then I found myself as a single father. And that's a whole nother challenge, right? And then I kept pursuing my dreams of being a chef, but I was still making poor decisions, and quite frankly, I was still kind of like in the streets doing knucklehead things with friends that I probably shouldn't be doing things with. That started as a young age when I was 15, and I was in that cycle heavy. And honestly, I thought that like my daughter would pull me out of it, like having my daughter, but then the pressure of money, responsibility just heightens. So I think I kind of doubled down really. And in my 20s, if you met me in my 20s, I was a really respectful man, young man, because I still hadn't learned how to be a full man at that point. I was still very much in a learning process, but yeah, I was always respectful, always kept my nose down. I was a hard worker, man. I'm not the best chef. I'm still not the best chef, but very few are going to outwork me, man. My heart is pretty big in that regard. I just knew how to play the game. I was a chameleon,
Before we get deeper into the conversations today, you made another couple of dishes here. They're all bangers, man. Listen, there's different kinds of foods. There's places where you can go and get a giant plate of something and it's going to fill your gut.
Yeah.
And that's cool. There's something for that. There's a time for that. And then there's elevated flavor bomb, elevated cuisine.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're living there, what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
As a group.
Yeah, total group.
Talk about the other two dishes.
Yeah, so the other ones we made for you was kind of like our focaccia / bread service at Ash. A lot of people like to start with that. So we're trying to refine that so it's just not so standard and pedestrian, which is, I think, why you view my food that way, which I want that. it comes natural to me and to our team. It's who we are and how we approach food. As an individual, I'm not a mainstream person. I don't like a lot of the popular things, and I don't just follow trends. It's just not who I've ever been. So as I started to develop as a chef, I realized that my food is that way as well. I don't, Rooster was the first restaurant we opened, and it's not quintessential. You don't just sit down and have a salad, an entree, a dessert, and go home. To me, that's a very boring way of eating. And Tampa is riddled with those things. And there's a place for everything. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I'll pop into places like that with my family, and they have a place. But I've always had this chip on my shoulder for Tampa and Tampa Bay area, because we've seldomly gotten any positive attention for what we do from a hospitality perspective. Obviously, the past 5 years, especially since Michelin has exposed that on a different level in a positive way. But so we push the boundaries, man. We do what we want to do. We try not to be ignorant to business.
Support for Walk and Talk Media comes from Metro Food Service Solutions, trusted by kitchens that need storage and workflow that actually does the job. Learn more at metro.com.
Everything that we create is from our souls, and it's stuff that we believe in, and it's things that we think that Tampa needs for fun, for education, for progression, for all of these reasons that continues to fuel me as a chef and restaurateur.
Before everything got fancy, there was Marty.
Yeah.
And I mean decades, like a long time. I think he's one of the OG elevated chefs in Tampa Bay. Like
you could put Jeannie in a close second behind him, I think. But Marty's it, man. I mean, when I was living in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, and I was, 16, 17 and getting into cooking, there was no Food and Wine or Bon Appetit. There was no Emerald Lagasse yet. There was no Food Network. There was none of that. But there was Gourmet Magazine, and I used to read those things, and Marty was featured in them. And I was like, wow, like somebody from Tampa? Like, that's wild. And he also was a tatted out biker, and he did, like at that time, still like just really progressive, thoughtful food. The same thing. I mean, I spent 7.5 years with him, so I think that, I don't think that heavily developed me as a chef and my style. Marty is an encyclopedia of culinary knowledge. I've never met anybody that knows more about cuisine on a global level than Marty. It's crazy.
But he's also one of these cats that he gives the opportunities too.
Yeah, dude, he's got a heart of gold.
He's got a heart of gold. I remember when we first started, Walk and Talk. In the very beginning, I reached out to Marty, and I didn't know him. I knew of him, obviously, but we didn't know each other. And I reached out and I said, "Hey, this is what we're doing. Can we come to the restaurant? This is in the original location." And he said, "Tell me about it a little bit more." Told him, and yeah, come on in, man. Come on, let's go. And he's just one of these guys that the personality doesn't match what he looks like.
Yeah.
The appearance.
Yeah.
Because he's a big dude. He's tatted, like, he looks like somebody you don't want to, bump elbows with in an alley or something like that. But the guy is a teddy bear.
Oh, dude, he's such a teddy bear. That's my big brother, man. He's, he is, he grew up in Detroit, and he grew up, in the generation before me. So that they grew up even harder than us, but heart of gold. He's an introvert. So I think I helped, bring some emotion out of him when we spent time together in the kitchen in regards to like being a little bit softer. He opens up, and now, he's been, I think Mise en Place has been around for 39 years. I mean, an independent restaurant doing that type of progressive cuisine that they started 39 years ago and to still be in business is insane.
And the stones it takes to move locations at this point.
Yeah.
Unfazed.
Yeah, I think that shows like that, him and Maryann still have their finger on the pulse. And, Ybor is on the up and up now with revitalization through gasworks and everything that's going on down there. So they took a leap, and I think he's going to ride this wave out into the sunset now, as their last hurrah. And they deserve it, man. They deserve their flowers, and they've been around forever. And the two most impactful people professionally in my life that did the most for me are hands down Maryann and Marty. And I'll never, ever forget that. And I'll forever be grateful.
You had a number of things in your life that you had to pivot into a new direction for one reason or another. And one of those, you lost a very close friend of yours. And it changed your life.
Yeah, for sure.
Can you talk about Dino?
Yeah, I try my best. Like I told you when I got here today, the irony is that today's Dino's birthday. So I don't know how that worked out, but you can hear my voice cracking already. Yeah, man. So me, Dino, Kevin, James, Kevin, and Steven, we all met around between 7th and 8th grade. Best friends, that's how it goes. And Spring Hill, Florida. And yeah, we're just tight, man. And then I went away to Cincinnati for, high school for a while, and then came back shortly thereafter. And then connected at the hips. It was just he and I. Yeah, man. And we built a life together, and it was great, but it was fast, all while I was doing all these things, the Marcus Samuelson thing, the Mise en place thing, Cincinnati, all that stuff. I was still living a fast life on the side. And I would say that it's way more fast than the simple things that people do in high school, All that to say that in 2007, our friend Joey was getting married, so we all go to the wedding. It was me, Kevin, Steven, and Dino. And at the end of the night, we were going back to my house to go change and then go to the after party. And it was raining. We're on Hernando Beach. It was just a 2-lane road, no streetlights out there. It's in the swamp, quite literally. And Steven was driving, and he lost control of the car and overcorrected, oversteered, and we wound up going down the embankment at about 80. We hit a couple trees, and one of those trees decided to kind of fall on a 45-degree angle. So then we jumped it, and we flipped, and we landed upside down. All of that I had to learn from, the report afterwards, because I blacked out pretty quick. I woke up, I'm upside down, horns blaring, lights are flashing, and we're a solid 40 feet deep into the embankment, into the swamp. I tried to open up the door, and the door is stuck, In retrospect, it was because we were buried in the mud about 8 to 10 inches. So then I had to bash the window with my left elbow, and I finally got that going, and I got out of there. And I'm in a suit still, but I didn't have my jacket on because I was leaving Joey's wedding. And I had my dress shoes on, and I do vividly remember stepping out. And my first 2 steps, the mud just sucked my shoes right off. That's how deep we were there. Next thing I know, I made it out of the woods. I'm on the embankment, and I see Steven on the ground, quite literally rolling around. He had a lot of back pain. Kevin was kind of bugging out, and he was just walking down the road, just kind of like walking away from everything, because when you grew up the way we grew up, if there's some trouble or the police are going to come, you get the hell out of Dodge. So that's what he was doing by nature. And I remember an EMT coming up to me, and he's like, "Hey, we got to get you in the ambulance, man. You're pretty banged up." My head was split, and at the time, no pain, no nothing, just straight adrenaline. But yeah, I had several broken bones, and my head was split open, and this and that and the other. And but I was just like, "Hey, we got one more stuck. And he's like, "It's okay, man. We got it. And I was like, No. Dino's in there. Like, there's Kevin, there's Steven, there's Dino's in there. And then he finally just grabbed me and he said, "Hey, man, your friend's gone." So, I just kind of got numb. I got in the ambulance, and then they wound up getting Steven in the ambulance, and we were just laying on the beds together, whatever, the gurneys. And I just grabbed his hand and held his hand all the way to the hospital. Yeah, man.
Survivor's guilt is a real is a real thing, and and thank you for sharing this story, because at the end of the day, this is not just something to talk about. This is something that was part of your fire to forge you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I got there, but it wasn't like that in the beginning, I found it.
That's the struggle. And that's the journey.
Yep.
And everybody's got something. It's one thing to lose a friend. It's another thing for it to be tragic and you're in it.
Yeah.
They're in it.
And you know what happens is that, you know, you lose that friend, and then Steven, my friend who was driving, our friend who was driving, he has such survivor's guilt and such remorse from the pressure he's getting from the world of hate because he was driving and D passed away. The sunroof was open, D got ejected. And that's the only reason we all survived is because we had a roof over our head and we literally caught the roof and stayed in. D got ejected and was stuck under the car. So, but then, you know, a year and a half ago, I buried Steven as well because he became a drug addict because he was just trying to bury his sorrows. So it's like, sometimes I feel like it just doesn't stop, you know? I think it's, like you said, it's part of the journey, man. And then like I went on an 8-month bender after that. You know, I was still a single father to Eva. Mom was wiping my ass really at that point. You know, I mean, I lived on my own and stuff like that. I took care of my kid and was still working hard at Mise en Place, but I was a mess. So I was drinking heavily and I didn't kind of care at that point. And then after about 8 months of living that way, my mom just was like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Look at this little girl, you know?" And
how old was she?
I see, I think she was only 3.5 years old by that point. And maybe she was 4, because she still remembers going to Uncle D's house and he used to buy her the Dora the Explorer ice pops with the black eyes that were bubblegum. She still talks about that now. But yeah, so mom said that to me, and thank God, I'm not a religious person, but you know, cliche, thank God that I was like, man, I got to do something, you know, like this isn't where I'm supposed to end. And Steven was still alive at this time, obviously, you know. So Dino was the first friend that I lost, but then I wound up losing Steven. But before I lost Steven, I also lost the other Kevin. We all did. So we went from 6 to 3. So now there's 3 of us standing strong still.
You know, tragedy has a way of choosing a path, or I should say, tragedy can give you a couple of different paths.
Mm-hmm.
And one way is giving it up, and the other way is rising. Ultimately, you went on an 8-month bender, but then you came out of it. If you were going to, and I know this isn't like a rubber stamp answer. That's some tragic shit.
Yeah.
4 out of 5 hospitality professionals have faced at least one mental health challenge during their career. Stress, burnout, anxiety. These are everyday realities in kitchens, dining rooms, and bars across North America. The Burnt Chef Project North America is here to change that. They provide free, anonymous support, direct care, training, and self-care resources designed specifically for chefs, servers, and hospitality staff. From therapy services to educational modules, they're answering the call for help in one of the toughest industries. It can't be done alone. Your financial support makes this possible, ensuring that every hospitality professional has access to the tools they need to thrive. Join the movement in breaking the stigma. Email uscanada@theburntchefproject.com for donation details and mailing information, or learn more about the mission at theburntchefproject.com. At one point, you just, you know, your mom, you're looking at your 3-year-old daughter. What did you had to think to yourself? I mean, was it like literally one of these things where you shake yourself and you say, "Oh my God, I gotta pull up my pants, or I gotta make a change"? Like, what did you do?
Yeah, like it wasn't like this. You know, it wasn't like this one date, this one time, and this one moment. But
yeah, but it had to. No, but all of those things that were happening,
yeah,
it had to be a moment. You had to have like this.
1000%. When mom said that to me, you know, like letting anybody down to me makes me nauseous. Like it makes me hate myself. I can't let people down, you know, like that's just, you control what you do, right? So if you say you're going to do something, then you do it. If you don't do it, you're letting somebody down. And that's just like, I don't know, it's so disrespectful. It's not in my DNA. So when mom said that to me, it really shook me. You know, I love my mom so much. And I was like, she's right. So then I always wanted more in my life. You know, even when I was making horrible decisions, it was because I wanted more and I wanted better, not just to have like money and clout and materialistic things, but I just wanted, I knew always felt like I was better than average, and I wanted to apply myself that way. And I did. Even through all that, I'm working full time and I'm grinding and I'm coming up through the ranks in some serious restaurants, you know? So from 15 to 27, I'm already 12 years in the game by the time Dino leaves. So I have two choices, you know? I can either just become a cook and just continue with drugs and alcohol and just, you know, do that thing. Or I could flip the script and be what I think that I deserve to be. And then, yeah, like, I guess that was my click, you know, and I was like, F this, man. And I just started grinding at Mise harder. Maryann and Marty started giving me some space and grace and teaching me things. I wound up buying my first house while I was there. I had my first child while I was there. Once I got promoted to CDC, which I created, I was the first person to ever be a chef de cuisine for Mise en Place. We created that position. And that's where I met Ty Rodriguez, my best friend, and then my business partner for the next 22 years of my life. So many things came from so many bad things, right? And I think that's kind of how it goes. And that's why it's important to not give up.
How do I say that? You said it a minute ago, you know, you may not be rooted in faith, but it seems that bad things do happen. Bad things are always going to happen, no matter what faith or whatever. But the truth is, people typically get closer to their faith or God or whatever because of these things. It's inherent, you know, because we're only human, and there's only so much that we're going to endure or understand. And at some point, you just have to literally give it up to move on, to make a move, to make a change of course. You're blessed to have your mom and even your daughter after all those things happened, because I mean, I'm assuming, you know, because if it were me and it was, and you know, when I remember when my daughter was born and I held her and I'm looking at, and I just can't believe it. Like, oh man, this is of me. That was, I knew immediately there was going to be a pivot and a major life change.
Yeah.
So between you having your mom with the, you know, the forceful encouragement, and then you have your 3-year-old, these things had to be major movers.
Yeah, for sure. And also, you know, when I was 19, my father got diagnosed with his first bout with cancer. And while I moved away to Cincinnati, northern Kentucky, our relationship just kind of, it didn't fall apart, but it got very distant. So when I got back, I kind of had some animosity towards that relationship. And then he got sick. And at 19, I was like, man, I could either like continue to be distant, or now that I'm living back in Tampa, I can try to build this relationship to where it needs to be. And I did that. So from that point on, you know, I've been super close with Pops as well. And he's going through cancer battles now. He's on his 4th one currently. And he's a grinder too, man. He fights, you know, and it's the same thing. So I think between that and then having a baby at 23, 24, and then Dino, and then the bender, and then realization of like, you have 2 choices, right? You're going to go left or right. So I chose to go right, thank God. And yeah, I started to back away from the poor decisions and start to clean my life up and not have to worry about sleeping at night and looking over my shoulder. I started to really focus on my craft and give it all I got. In the next 5 years, I was able to transition from mise en place to my first proprietorship.
This story, your story, obviously it's special and it's unique, but it seems that this is a story that is very common in the food industry. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily the different types of loss, but the lifestyle. And you come up against the wall where there's a choice. Either you go one way or you go the other. And I mean, I've known many people in the industry that were major drug addicts and substance abusers and Yet they found a way to get to work. And in some cases, you lose some of those people. But the strong ones, when they come out of it, they are forged. They're a different kind of animal. It seems like you're one of them.
Thank you, I guess. Yeah. I take pride in that,
Hey man, that wasn't
I'm calloused,
that was a compliment.
No,
that was nothing short of that.
I receive it that way, and I'm grateful for it. I'm calloused in that way where, I don't talk about my story because it's private to me, but also I don't want sympathy. I'm not looking for, I have my moments and I have my people and I get through it that way. And I still, try to ignore it and stuff like that. But as I get older, I start to embrace things like therapy and helping myself. But I feel great. I feel really good. I have my moments, but yeah, man. I mean, I've been through it, and I think I'm a stronger person because of it. And that was just the way it was supposed to be for me. I believe that.
I look at a bunch of different things when I'm speaking to chefs, or I make an introduction to a chef that I would like to have on the program. Some of them are purely culinarily driven, and others are because I think that there is something special in their life. This episode is brought to you by Trimark, the largest food service design, equipment, and supplies provider in North America. Trimark works directly with operators, bringing design build expertise, supply sourcing strength, project management, installation, and servicing together to power smarter hospitality kitchens. Learn more at TrimarkUSA.com. We do a lot with mentorship in general, with like substance abuse and all that, mental health awareness. We work with the Burnt Chef Project, and we try to do our little things and our part to help.
Yeah.
At least build awareness, right? That's the least we could do. But when we were talking originally, to start off, it was the culinary part. And within minutes of our, prep call, I was like, no, this is something extra. This is deeper. And I genuinely believe that a guy like you, with a story that you have, that not that it's rags to riches, but it's like, it's struggle to embracing where you are, the success, the failure, the fall on your face, the get up again. It's embracing that and continuing forward. And I really believe that that's the story that either it could be a young chef, an old chef. It could be anybody who's going through a challenge. They can look at you and go, hey, wait, this guy was pretty deep in stuff. Had a lot of circumstances punch you in your face. And you're here making beautiful crudo. This is what it is.
Yeah, it's really important to me now to I guess I've always been, I'm a super big hearted person. I care so much about other people, but now I really try to, I'm just giving back and doing what I can to help others, whether it's my employees, whether it's, back in the day, I mentored Gallito High School, the culinary program there, met some amazing human beings that are now, 12 years later, they're in their mid to late 20s and they're running businesses of their own. And I get to do collaborations with them, all the way to my employees, and just trying to, whether it's, I buy somebody a knife because they don't have the money to buy a knife, or we send somebody on a stage at another friend's restaurant out of state and we pay for their, travel and lodging and get the experience, giving back, man. I feel like it's important that you have to do that, and people took a chance on me. Like you said, all these people were so generous to me and believed in me that I would be crazy not to reciprocate that type of love.
Hey, listen, not everybody reciprocates the love, and not everybody understands really what it means to do that. Some people are just takers.
Yeah.
And you get to find out who those people are pretty
Facts.
quickly, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Clearly, you're not one of them.
I would hate myself if I was that way, man. I just can't do it. There's so much to give in this world, and you got to help people. It feels good to me. It genuinely makes me happy. I got this guy that lives by me. He's homeless, unhoused, and he lives on 50th by the 275. I see him like 4 or 5 times. Is Anthony, I see him 4 or 5 times a week. He's amputee, goes in and out of drug addiction and stuff. But, I bring him food. I never give him money, but I bring him food. I bring him clothes, and I just care for him. He's there. We see each other so much. And I think like those things happen to people for a reason, and it's like, I don't feel obligated, but I feel inclined to help that person. And like, what's a bag of clothes to me? What's a meal to me when this guy's living on the street with one leg, and that's literally his entire life right now. So little things like that speak to me heavily, all the way up to my people in the business, to doing whatever I can, man. I try to do a lot. I don't turn down interviews. I don't turn down, podcasts. No matter how big, like you guys, or how small, like young kids that are coming up in high school or college, I try to do whatever I can to spread that type of energy, because I believe it was spread to me and it got me to where I am. So I need to be as good as others were to me.
I hate saying pay it forward as a cliche thing.
For sure. Yeah, pay it forward, man. Like organically, without Instagram, without the bells and whistles, without the attention. You do it because it's really what is in your heart. It's the right thing to do, not because you want to get patted on the back for it.
Do you think success runs out?
I guess it's depending on how you measure success. I don't measure success through monetary gains. And that's coming from somebody who didn't have any money in the beginning. At 22, I had a pretty fat stack of cash. I bought my first home. I think at that time it was like $250,000. And, 25, 26 years ago, that was a lot of money. I've lost everything, and then I rebuilt it again. And, you go through those moments, and you realize like success is waking up and being alive and just being able to breathe today, right? Like that's a success to me. Success is being able to touch all my employees and give them an opportunity to be able to feed their families through working and through getting paid, like literally the foundation of like just working with the company, all the way up to glowing people up on social and giving opportunities and attention and spreading it to my friends and my family and all those things, man. I think that's all success for me. Money, especially in my industry and my position, it goes, there's peaks and valleys. So it can't be measured through that. I've been fortunate. We've been doing well, but it wasn't always that way, man. And I think a lot of people from the outside looking in have a misconception of what my success might be, or maybe how I perceive it. But I feel rich in success in the sense where I got so many people that believe in me, that count on me, that support me and love me. So yeah, I feel super successful. And I don't think that's going to run out, to get back to your question. I think my wife always says, I'm like, sometimes I get stressed out. We love the islands. And like, I'm like, man, I just want to cash out and go to an island. She's like, if we did that, you would still open up a little shack to do something, because you can't sit still and you have to like be cooking or doing something, which is true. Like I always have to be doing something. ADHD.
Heard that. Would you say that Rooster the Till, I mean, that was your jump off point, right? I mean, it's multi-year Bib Gourmand, receiver for Michelin.
Yes,
recipient, I should say.
Yeah.
That's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, Rooster's a big deal.
It is a big deal. People look at Michelin in a couple of different ways. I understand both sides of this, but at the end of the day, it changes your life.
1,000%. And I'm with you on that. I definitely have my opinions on those things, but I say Rooster is a big deal, not like in a boastful way, but like Rooster's a big deal to me, and Rooster changed my life. And I honestly think that it changed a lot of people's lives that, we've had an opportunity to touch. The community, the neighborhood, the property values, also like the culinary world in Tampa. We're 12 and a half years old right now, which is wild to say and think about.
Support for Walk and Talk Media comes from Crab Island Seafood Dip, creating chef-driven crab dips made with real seafood and bold flavor. Learn more at crabislandsseafooddip.com. Well, especially because you weren't backed by, venture capitalists. Like you had you had friends that, relationships or whatever that believed in what you were doing. And that's what kind of like lifted the thing up.
5 people, man. So the short version of that is after Mise en Place, I took over a restaurant in Tampa with Ty as the GM, and for 4 years. And at the end of those 4 years, for the first time in our lives, we both got fired. And we're not the people that get fired. You know, we've never been fired in our entire lives, but the owner was going through a separation with his wife, and money became a factor, and he needed to be smart about his finances. So that's where we found ourselves. I was always a dreamer, you know. I sketch, looked at restaurants, went to my friend's wedding in Maine, to Kevin's wedding, and I stepped into this place called Duck Fat. And it was so cool to me. It's a shotgun-style restaurant, homemade charcuteries, pâtés, breads. They do really dope sandwiches with those items. Craft beer and soda in like an honor system cooler, help yourself type of thing. Shoulder to shoulder, crammed in there. Very like New York City energy in regards to like the spacing, but it's still around Duck Fat in Portland, Maine. So that one just stuck to me because I was like, to me, that felt like obtainable for where I was at in life from a monetary perspective and what I was able to maybe create on my own. To me, that was obtainable, you know, like I was like, oh, this is like something that like I could probably do in my future, you know? So then when I got into the position where Ty and I were released from our jobs, and I'm a single dad and I find myself on unemployment, slightly embarrassed, mostly shocked. But then I'm like, okay, what do I do? You know, I'm not just going to sit around and cry. So I was like, I'm going to do a restaurant. And like even saying it now is like, I had no idea. And I often say in interviews and stuff, if I knew how naive I was, I probably wouldn't have taken the risk. Or if I knew all the risks and I wasn't naive, I wouldn't have taken the risk, right? Like I called up 4 friends, Todd Sturtz, and I said, Todd Sturtz, Brian Schaefer, my father and my stepmother, and my Uncle Lou and my Aunt Joan. And I was in shorts. I can still remember so vividly. I'm in a pair of shorts, and I had downsized my life to a 2-bedroom house for Eva and I that was right behind Rooster. And I was living in a rental with her. And I called each of those people up back to back within like 20 minutes. And I was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this little idea. And I explained to them this small concept that I had, which was, you know, homemade charcuteries, making sandwiches, really dope compound salads, boutique wines by the glass, craft beer. That was, you know, reclaimed wood, Edison light bulbs, and craft beer with all the rage then. We're talking 14 years ago, right? So I said, I would like to borrow $10,000 on a promissory note that I drafted by hand at that point. I said, I'll pay you back 10% interest. I'll accrue it over 3 years, and I'll pay you off at the end of year 3. And the first 4 phone calls, they all said yes to me, and I was blown away. So now I had $40,000, and then I called my 5th friend, which was Joe Caballero, huge mentor in my life at that time. He was the president of a local bank, and he's slightly older than me, but he was just so, I looked up to him. He's so sharp, man, just knew so much, and he had a very different life than me. And he was a Jesuit graduate, comes from a family of 10 or 12, but they're all successful. They're all so intelligent, and they're all so put together. And he gave me the space to learn and to just understand kind of where he was coming from by osmosis. He used to go to his house and eat so much. And so I asked him for the 10 grand. He's like, I'm not going to give you 10 grand, but I'll give you 20 grand for some equity. I said, hey, let me sit on this, Joe, and I'll call you back tomorrow. So I immediately jump on the internet. I'm like, what is equity? And I'm trying to figure out what the heck he's talking about. So long story short, you know, Joe gave me 20 grand for 20%. So I called up Ty and I said, hey man, we're going to do this. I'm going to do this. Ty had a full-time job. So he was just focusing on that because he was a single father as well. So he was working as executive director for Gasparilla Music Festival at that time. And my best friend and chef who had followed me from Mise en Place to the next job and then now was with me to come to Rooster, Brian Lampy. It was just him and I. And to scrunch it all up, I found a white box in Seminole Heights that cost about $1,200 a month that had a bathroom and 4 walls. I leveraged a relationship with a designer that we knew from Mise en Place, Jamie Rogers, and she gave me ideas and assisted us for trade. I rented a U-Haul and I went to a sports bar in Oldsmar and bought all their furniture, and I negotiated them down for $210 for their tables, their chairs, and their bar stools. Mind you, I only had 32 seats in Rooster, so it wasn't that big. Jay Goldstein of mine helped me sand them and paint them black. Jamie helped us decorate. Brian and I drove around the neighborhood and found reclaimed fencing that was fallen over, and we took it all in a truck, brought it back to the unit, and took it apart with our hands, sitting on buckets. I have pictures of it, just pulling all the nails. I built a reclaimed wall. I bought lights off of Etsy that used to be, they were repurposed chicken feeders. And we figured it out, man. Kyle Haberson was a local mill worker, and he helped me build the bar. And for $60,000, we built Rooster the Till 1.0. I had no gas, no grease trap, no hood system. I lied to the state in regards to, like, you have to present to the DBPR to what you're going to be doing food wise. And I made everything on the menu. If I'm doing like homemade pâtés, where I can use a convection oven that didn't need a hood, and then I can use induction burners and a couple circulators, and I can pull it off. And quite frankly, we did, man. And for the first 8 months, it was a grind. We were on 2 to 3 hour waits. We got high praise from the Tampa Bay Times, and we were able to stack capital. And then by like month 20, the lady next to us in the space next to us, she moved out with her art store. The landlord asked if we wanted that space, and we built it out for the proper way that you see Rooster now, although we've remodeled probably 3 times, hodgepodge style. But that's like, you couldn't do that again with that money if you tried, mostly because the city's aware of all these loopholes now. But yeah, man, it was the way it was meant to be for me. I put a ton of energy into it with Miles and Ty and Brian and Leah and all these amazing people that stood by us, and we made it happen, man.
You said something that stuck with me on our call. Success isn't difficult. Most people just aren't willing to put in the effort to make it happen.
Yeah, I believe that.
What responsibility comes with somebody believing in your dream?
Wow. A lot, everybody that works for me is running my dream. And I say my just because you're speaking to me, but obviously it's a team, right? I got Sean's dream and Ty, my partner, Miles, my partner, ex-partners. And you're asking people to meet your standard, meet your expectation, and maintain it. Receive feedback, improve, but run a dream that you're solely articulating to them that exists inside your head, right? So leading them through that process is really important. Having grace while doing so, and making sure that you understand the full capacity of what you're asking of them, and then in giving them in some opportunity to grow within that space as well, which has been kind of my growth over the past 5 to 7 years for letting people exercise their own creativity within our space. And I've learned that when you do that, you're really surprised on what comes to fruition, and you start to build steam with a grain of salt.
Chef, and we just met in person. Okay. But I have a superpower. I read people really well.
Mm-hmm.
I know ahead of time the cats that are going to look to stick it to me in the future. I know these things. I know good, bad, whatever. You really seem like a genuine dude. Good guy. I don't mean that you were a saint. I don't mean that you didn't, do dirt. It's not what I'm talking about. Your heart is gigantic, and it seems that you like to help people. So with that said, in the future, you're out of the restaurant business, whenever that is in your life. What do you want people to remember about you?
I would hope that they would say that Ferrell Alvarez was someone that gave more than he tried to receive, that really cared for people genuinely. I hope that they would say that I was a good chef and did well by Tampa, because I really, I love Tampa, man. I bleed Tampa, and I really want everybody to rise up and do well. It's not a competition for me, man. I want everybody to succeed and be happy and harmonious, So I guess at the end of it all, I want them to feel that I'm a genuinely good man and that I did right by everybody.
Amen. Chef, When I tell you that I'm sincerely thankful that you came out and spent time with us today, I mean that. And I know that they mean, John and Will's here today. Group consensus. How do people find you?
You can hit me up on Instagram, Ferrell Alvarez. Proper House Group will link you to everything. At Rooster the Till, at Ash Tampa, at Alter Ego, at Gallito Taqueria, at Dang Dude. I think I got them all.
Excellent. We're going to continue our relationship together too. Listen, guys, appreciate everybody doing what they do. We are out.
Marketing is hard. But I'll tell you a little secret. It doesn't have to be. Let me point something out. You're listening to a podcast right now, and it's great. You love the host. You seek it out and download it. You listen to it while driving, working out, cooking, even going to the bathroom. Podcasts are a pretty close companion. And this is a podcast ad. Did I get your attention? You can reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience in their favorite podcasts with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com, that's LIBSYN, ads.com today.